Okay, everybody. So welcome back to the White Rose community. And tonight we are looking at mastering time management, time and energy management, right? And you might be asking, what is that? Why are we doing time and energy management? Um, so let's start off by a little question. Um, who defines time and energy management? Or how do you define it? All right. So we have a fairly quiet crowd tonight. So, so what we're going to do tonight is look at time and energy management, and we're going to learn how to master it so we can learn how to navigate the transition of menopause and reduce the impact of symptoms of menopause, right? Creating areas for rest and recovery, right? So now, we all know menopause is a natural process. Every woman goes through it. Once you're having your menstrual cycles, you're going to go into menopause at some point in time in your life. This is a natural change that every woman goes through. And it happens usually between the ages of after the age of 45, and usually menopause is, or a woman is considered postmenopause by the age of 52. Now, this age can range from as young as your early 40s to well into your 60s for some women. But as you could tell, the transition can last from anything from 6 to 10 years, right? So in that 6 to 10 years, you have these symptoms, and some women have extreme symptoms while others have very mild symptoms, right? Some women report no symptoms at all. So there's a variety or a spectrum of things that can happen to women. So that being said, we want to talk about how do we manage this long transition into from your reproductive years to your non-reproductive years, where you become the matriarchs of society, the celebrated knowledge of womanhood and the and leading societies through everything. So what most women don't recognize is they have a greater impact than men do in terms of changing the world. Women, because of their direct contact with not just raising children, but raising entire families, they raise entire generations that can change the world, the way the world thinks. So your power is extreme. And for that reason, that you want to have this transition not be overwhelming, right? So this is what we're going to get into this evening. How can we learn, or how can we implement good time management techniques that allows us to get rest? And when I say us, I'm talking to the guys too, if there are any guys listening right now, to get rest and to give space for recovery, right? So you know the symptoms are going to occur. Some are worse than others, but you want some space that you can be learned to recover, right? So today, what we'll cover is what is the importance of time and energy management during menopause, understanding time management, what is a time management matrix, and strategies for energy, for time and energy, for managing time and energy to support rest and recovery, right? So by the end of the session, I want to give you some practical tools and techniques to help you navigate menopause with greater comfort and confidence. Now, to be clear, these are all techniques I use on a daily basis. And I want to say, I'm going to give you, by the end of this, so stick around to the end, and by the end of it, I'm going to give you 6 techniques that I didn't invent. I got them from this great salesman called Chet Holmes, right? And these 60 techniques have been instrumental in changing my day and giving me more space to do more things. So for instance, in the morning, I get an extra half an hour to spend by myself, right? Or with myself, or on any other thing I want to work on. And it all occurred because of implementing these time management techniques, right? And these techniques will not occur overnight. They can take weeks, months, years to implement. But if you take your time and implement them one at a time, you'll notice it becomes easier and easier to share and to develop more space on your schedules, right? So we know menopause can significantly impact your energy levels, mood, and overall health, right? So poor time and energy management in this phase can exacerbate symptoms such as fatigue, insomnia, and stress. And this can lead to a cycle of feeling overwhelmed and unable to cope effectively with daily demands. On the other hand, effective management can lead, sorry, I'm just pinning myself. Effective management can lead to more time and energy and can help you create space for rest, recovery, and self-care, right? And I'm sure you're thinking to yourself, oh my gosh, that sounds amazing. What if I can get that rest and recovery that I so badly need? So that's what we're going to discuss today. One second, I just lost my train of thought. Right. So let's go into understanding what time management is then. Time management is the process of organizing and planning how to divide your time between various activities. Right. So good time management can enable you to work smarter, not harder, and ensure you have time for rest and recovery, which is crucial for menopause, which is absolutely important in menopause. You need that time for rest and recovery. So let's talk before we dive into how time management is different from task management. And first thing I want to mention is, do you ever come up with any of these potential reasons for not managing your time well? Some of them is rigidity. Some people argue that strict time management can lead to rigid schedules that doesn't allow for spontaneity and creativity. And this may stifle innovation and flexibility. That is entirely untrue. Time management doesn't lead to rigidity. It actually creates space for being creative and and allowing for other recreational activities to go on. So no, time management doesn't cause rigidity. Another problem that some people face is overemphasis on efficiency. So what some people say is managing time efficiently can lead to prioritizing quantity over quality. Thank you. So what does that mean? It means that sometimes people think that you go for more with being very efficient in time management, you don't get the quality of services you do. Now, that's not true also. Why? Because when it comes to time management, the quality of the service you're asking for is related to the time you allot to it. So you have control over what that time frame is. Some people, so another objection persons often struggle with is that it can cause burnout, right? Overzealous time management can lead to burnout and efficiency of an individual. Again, very untrue. Why? Because if you create good time management, you create spaces, I remember we started off saying is once you want to give yourself a chance for rest and recovery. So you get spaces where you can rest and recover, right? Another objection often found is neglecting relationships. Again, highly untrue. You're not going to neglect a relationship because of good time management. In fact, it allows you to spend more time with your partner, with your children, with your friends. It creates space where you can have that time to spend with them. It allows you to have a better relationship with yourself, right? So yes, time management is good, right? And one of the other things that is commonly asked, how can I fit in unforeseen circumstances? Because life is so unpredictable. This is when you do when we go through time management today, I'll show you how the unpredictability of life doesn't affect your time management, and your time management doesn't affect the unpredictability. In fact, they go hand in hand, and it gives you space to use these techniques for that purpose. So now, so let's talk about what is time and energy, time versus task management. First off, I'm going to ask you a quick question here. Anybody want to have a comment or a question about what time and task management, or what they think time and task management is? Nope, no questions? All right, well.
Not yet. Not yet.
Not yet. All right, awesome. So let's get in what time and task management is. All right, first, there's the big picture, focus. Focus talks about managing managing and allocating your available time efficiently. In other words, you have 24 hours in a day, and you have to allocate that time to 24 hours in a day. Whereas with task management, it centers on managing individual tasks or activities. Means you get to organize and prioritize where those tasks is. In other words, the focus is finite. It's not as broad as time management is, right? Again, now we talk about what a scope is. Scope deals with a broader picture. As you mentioned earlier, bigger scope, bigger, broader picture. You have more time on your hands. So sometimes you may have a task that's due in 3 to 4 months. That gives you a lot of time to plan for a task. But as you get closer, it becomes more granular. The focus becomes gets more finite, and you have a specific time to finish that task in, right? So the task can be fit into places, and then with the focus on task, you're not going to assign it as a responsibility for somebody else, so you can delegate. The next one is tools and techniques. For time management, you use time blocking, you do lists, you strategize, you set deadlines, and you establish priorities on urgency and importance. Whereas with task management, it involves tools like task lists, project management software, and such other tools like Slack and so on, right? So you see, tools can be very different. In decision making, time management, you said, the scope is big, so decisions can be put off for later. If the task in the time allotted is not due very soon, then that task can be put for several months down the road. If it's not urgent to do now, you can push it back, right? Whereas with a task, as it comes closer to the deadline for it to be done, the decision making becomes more and more urgent. So you can see how time is there. In terms of flexibility, time management, as I said, broader picture, more flexibility until getting closer to the time that a task is due. Whereas with task management, lots of flexibility also. You can schedule it in at a focused time. You can deal with individual tasks at a time, and you can prioritize changes for if unexpected tasks arise. So, has everybody ever heard of something called the Eisenhower matrix? All right, so The Eisenhower matrix is basically a matrix of 4 boxes. So consider yourself, you're looking at a box with 4 quadrants in it. And in those 4 quadrants, you have, now Eisenhower matrix, the Eisenhower matrix was invented by President Eisenhower during World War II. And he had so many tasks to do in a very short space of time that he created this box so he can put his tasks into these different 4 quadrants in order to know what is needed right away and what can be put off for later. But this matrix has a big challenge. And here's what it is. Let me go through it first. First off, you have the first, let's talk about the upper, the first box we have at the top, right? You have urgent and important. These are tasks you have to do first. You must do now. They're due today or they're due tomorrow. They must get done. The next box, right next to the top box, is important but not urgent. These are tasks that you need to get done in a timely fashion. They're important, but at this point, they're not absolutely due. Now, below the urgent and important box is the urgent but not important. These are tasks you can probably delegate to somebody else to do. They have to be done, but they're not that important that they need to be done right now. But they are urgent. So you can probably send this to somebody else to do, or you can delegate it to a different time to be done. Now, and then the last box, as you can guess, not urgent, not important. So I always equate this to a person in school. Beginning of the term or semester, your teacher comes in a class and says, hey, you have a term paper due. At the end of the term, where do you prioritize that task? Is the beginning of the term, you have not due till the end, it's worth half your grade. When do you do it, right? So using the Eisenhower matrix, that goes in a not urgent, not important box, correct? So now it's middle of the term, still not urgent, still not important. Now it's 2 weeks before the paper is due. Now it's urgent, but not important because you have time. You have time to get to it. Week before, it becomes important, but still not urgent because you still have a week to finish this paper. So you schedule it into that week, right? So first you delegated it to the week before. Now you scheduled it. When in this week I'm going to do this? Day before the paper is due. Now it's urgent and important. Now, can you see how this can become a challenge? Because you go from a paper that's not urgent and not important. So by the end of the semester, it becomes urgent and important. Now you're rushing to get it done. You're trying, you're stressed out. You're staying up all night to write the paper. You haven't done any work on it. Why? So you see how quickly things can go from not urgent to not important to urgent and important. And this is the challenges I have found with the Eisenhower matrix. Some people it works great for. When they can they make their lists, they put a lot which goes in which box. And people who are extremely efficient at doing these things, project managers are great at this, right? They can do that. If you're somebody like me, I love to procrastinate. So guess what I'm going to do? I'm not going to look at that until the very end. And the mere fact it's not in the urgent and important box, it won't even register in my brain that this needs to be done until it's too late and now I'm rushing to get it done. So if you're like me, that can be a problem, right? So you could see why the Eisenhower matrix can be a challenge. So then, let's get into what is time management today. What are the techniques that we can use to do time management? Now, for this one, I'm going to create a little document. I'm going to post it on, I'm going to have it available. But you could always watch the video and get the results of this later, right? So, what it is. There's 6 techniques I use for managing time. And those 6 techniques are, first off, and I said, this is not from me. I'm repeating somebody else's time management method. And this has been highly effective. So first off, first technique is something called touch it once. So let's go through the 6 techniques before we get into each one at a time. Touch it once. Make a list. Number 3, plan how much time you will allocate to each task. Number 4, plan your day. Number 5, prioritize. And number 6 is what will it hurt if I throw it away? Now let's get into number 1. Touch it once. Touch it once is a simple technique. How many people have, I'm going to ask this, and I'd love somebody to answer me. How much emails do you have in your inbox? Anybody, come on and tell me how many emails you have in just one of your inboxes. Nobody has email?
Yeah, about 20, or about 20 to 40 in mine.
20 to 40, that's very good. Anybody else?
I have over 10,000 in mine.
Ooh, ouch. No, that is actually quite normal. Anybody else? Excellent answers, and that is great. The one from 20 to 40 in the inbox, that's an awesome number. That's very good. But the majority of people have something like can range from 500 to up to 10,000 emails in their inbox. And if you're a person like me who has 7 email accounts, you can see how that can add up to being overwhelming. Does this give you anxiety every time you open your inbox? Do you freak out every time you don't even open the inbox because you're so worried about seeing that big number? I know many people do. Now, they did studies on people who open their emails, and this is in the work environment. And they said the average employee who opens an email, reads their emails, reads the subject line, opens the email, reads the first few lines and say, I will respond to this later, closes it, and then goes on to the next email. And you would never believe how much time they waste doing this. When they studied it, they said the average employee loses 66 days a year in time wasted for opening, just doing that one act. 66 days a year. So this is where touch it once comes in. And you can equate this to just about anything. Folding clothes in your house, cooking dinner, doing homework with your children, getting ready in the morning. All of these choices are these, you can equate this to. And why is this important in menopause? Because imagine thinking, if I'm feeling or I'm having a bad day, for some reason my symptoms are a lot worse than usual, and you have the extra time to get some rest while during that day because of you doing these techniques, then that would lead for a chance for you to recover somewhat so you can get on with your day. So here's how touch it once works. If you're going to do a task, do not touch that task unless you're going to complete it. Or sometimes the task is much longer than expected. So it goes on for more than an hour, more than 2 hours, right? If your task is going on for an extremely long time and you have to stop anytime, put a note where you stopped so that you can come back and restart from exactly where you are. Now, why is this important? When you're doing a task, if you get distracted, like for instance, your phone, or somebody sends you a WhatsApp message, or you see something on Facebook, or some other distraction happens, it takes a minimum of 22 minutes for you to recover that concentration you previously had in order to achieve the level of productivity you were previously at. 22 minutes. Imagine that. For just one distraction, like a WhatsApp reminder or a message on your phone, where you just look and see that push message and you don't even read it, suddenly you lost 22 minutes. So for this technique, touch it once means that you do the task right there, right then, and you either finish it or leave a note in it so you can come back to it. Right? Excuse me 1 minute, folks. Sorry about that. So to continue, Touch It Once works on this principle of, sorry, that was my daughter in the background and she came in the room. So I just asked her to leave. It sounded a little harsh. She's 7 years old, and trust me, you want to be quiet will eventually turn into talking. So when it comes to the Touch It Once principles, it is simply this. When doing a task, do it and get it done. So if you're going to open an email, do not read the headline, open that email, read the top line, and then say, I'll come back to it later. When you open that email, answer that email, and then, or delete that email. If you're going to fold the clothes in your house, fold the clothes, pack them in a pile, pack them away, and then don't worry about it again. If you're going to cook a meal, finish it. If you're going to go prepare breakfast for your family, like I do every morning, prepare breakfast, get it done. Don't get distracted by your phone or anything else. Get the task done. If you cannot get to the task, don't do it. That's the first principle that we have in mind. The second one is make a list. Now, making lists is important, right? When they look at people who make lists, they are 66% more likely to complete at least half to a third of the 2/3 of the tasks on that list than somebody who doesn't make a list, right? So making lists make it important to see what you have to do that day. But making a list comes with its own stipulations. First off, make a list of what you want to achieve this year, right? And don't make it with more than 6 things on that list. If you put 20 things on the list, you're not going to do any of them. And this is human nature. Like you've all seen the shows, like the House Hunter shows, or you go on Amazon, and what do they give you? They always give you 3 choices because our human brains can't handle too many choices. It overwhelms us and we lose interest. So when they did a study where they asked people to choose from a table of products, and they put one table with 3 products, they put one table with 10 products, and they put one table with 20 plus products, everybody who was on the 3 product table was able to make a choice, whereas everybody who went to the 20 product table, nobody bought anything. The reason is, if you have too many choices, your brain does not make a choice. So if you put too many things on your list, you're going to overwhelm your brain and you're just not going to get to the task. You're going to overwhelm yourself. So make a list of 6 things you want to do for the year. Then to break those 6 things down into when you want to do them, right? So you plan how much time you want to take for each task. Now, as you go through the year, each day create a list of no more than 3 to 6 things, right? And for 3 to 6 things every day, that means you get 3 things done every day. Now, so you make your list of your task for today. 3 to 6, no more than, try never to go over 6 if you can, right? Now, plan how much time you want to allocate to each task. So here's what I do for my task list. My task list usually is between 3 to 6 things every day. Today, my task list has 6 things. And I allocate 4.5 to 6 hours every day to doing the tasks I want to get done. That allows me in a 24-hour day to get 8 hours of sleep, spend time with my children, have time with my family, and still do all the things that I want to do. Right, so here's how I do it. I have one big task I put on the list every day. One big task. And that task is either 1.5 hours to 3 hours long. Right? Most times it's 1.5 hours. Right? Now on days When I have 6 things on a list, it's an hour and a half. When I have 3 things on a list, that task can be 3 hours long. Now, the next task is no longer than an hour, and I allow only 2 tasks to be an hour long, right? Then the last 2 tasks, right, are 30 minutes each, right? And I can put in a 10-minute, I usually add, if anything, another 10 to 30-minute task to that. So 1 long task, 2 medium tasks, and 3 short tasks, right? So now I have allotted the time to that. Now, if you look at it, 3 hours, if I have a day where I have a 3-hour task, I am not adding more than 3 extra tasks that day. That means I add 1 hour and 1 half-an-hour task, because the 3-hour task is going to eat a lot of my energy. And we're going to talk a little bit about why energy is important, right? So that means that 1 hour task and a half-an-hour task, that means it's 4.5 hours I've spent in that day on my tasks. On the days when I set 3 tasks, 1 hour and a half task, 2 1-hour tasks, so now we are up to 3.5 hours, and 3 30-minute tasks, right, which is another hour and a half. So that equals 5 hours in my day. I still have an extra hour out of my allotted 6 hours to use. Now, here's another, so I allocate, I put the time on those things. Then before we get to planning our day, I then go into what these tasks are. Now here before, a little caveat on that planning, but planning how much time to associate this task. Now, supposing I'm not able to do 1 or 2 or 3 of my tasks on a 6-task day list, right? What happens to those tasks? Do they get tossed out? Do they never get done? No. What happens is those 3 tasks get moved to the next day. So for instance, for some reason, I didn't get to my big task, the hour and a half. And for some reason, 2 of my half-an-hour tasks didn't get done. The next day, the hour and a half task gets moved to the next day, and the 2 half-an-hour tasks get moved to the next day. But it doesn't mean I add 6 extra tasks to those 3 tasks. That would mean 9 tasks. No, what happens is now I have 1 hour and a half tasks, I have 2 30-minute tasks, and I have space for 2 1-hour tasks and 1 half-an-hour tasks. That means that even though I finished 3 things the day before, the next day I still have 6 things. Even if I finish 3 things that day, the next day I finish another 3 things. By the end of a 5 or 6 day week, I've done between 15 to 18 tasks. Do you think you would be extremely productive? Do you think you would find time for a little time for yourself in doing that? No, yes, you would, because you've just created a nice productivity schedule that allows you, even when you're having the worst of days, to be able to take time off for yourself so you can move those tasks. So let's say today I didn't get any of my tasks done because I had a cold, or in a case of going through menopause, your symptoms were so bad you couldn't move, right? Then you can move those 6 tasks to the next day or the next day after that. Because you're being so productive throughout the week, you're getting a minimum of 12 tasks done every week anyway. And that allows you to have more time for doing more. So now that allows also, so if something new comes up that you need to get done, you can now fit it into one of your tasks, into your allotted time schedules, be able to do that thing and just move that task to the next day, because you've created this system for yourself. Now, tip number 4, plan the day. Do your most important task at the highest energy times of the day. I always ask people, why do you do laundry in the morning? Why do you cook or pack meals for your children in the morning? Why not do them the night before? If your highest energy time of the day is when you wake up first thing in the morning, and science has shown that is generally your highest energy time, and as your day progresses, your energy slowly waxes and wanes, then why are you doing these mundane tasks that take very little brain power? And when I talk about energy, I'm talking about brain power, not just your physical energy, but that mental energy, right? Where the brain fog isn't there and you're clear as ever. If you do those tasks that are mundane that you don't have to think about, do them later in the evening when you have little energy left, when you're coming down on your last reserves, because it's not something you want to think about. How much brain power are you putting into putting clothes into the washer machine or the dryer? How much brain power are you putting into packing your children's lunches for the next day? How much brain power are you putting into cooking a meal for the next day? Do it the night before. Now I understand. In Trinidad and Tobago, some people get problems with water and they only get water in the morning. I'm not saying if it's a task that needs to be done at a certain time, there's nothing you could do about that. But I'm sure there's many other tasks that you consider to be mundane, right, that you can do without thinking about it, that you can put to the lowest energy. Like for instance, I'm going to ask this question of everybody in this group. Who here goes through 3 or 4 outfits in the morning before getting to work? Anybody? Hands up if you do. Like everybody's being a little shy on this one. So I know many women are usually, oh, this outfit looks nice, but I don't like how it feels. Or this one. Why are you doing that in the morning? Why not plan that the evening before? Because it takes so little brain power to do it. Steve Jobs said, do you have a limited amount of choices you can make throughout the day? So why use up those choices on things that you don't have to think about? That's why you see a lot of tech guys wear the same clothes every day, the same colors, the same jeans. It's not their clothes are dirty. I'm sure they have dozens of t-shirts that look like that. The point is that it frees them up to make decisions or more quality decisions when they are needed the most. All right? So plan your day. The last thing is prioritize, or number 5 on the checklist is prioritize. Prioritize means putting things where they're most important to be done first, right? It's easy to get distracted by social media or to have somebody interrupt you and go down that route because our brains don't want to focus on those very important tasks. It automatically rebels. I'd prefer to watch Netflix. So why not? So you have to learn to prioritize these tasks. And as you can see, each one of these techniques, each one of these tips, it implements on their own. But as you get more and more efficient at doing this, you find it's easier to find the space to do many of these things. All right. So what I want to suggest, and before we get to tip number 6, is what I want to suggest is over the next week, before we meet next week, again for another live session, practice one of these 6 tips and see how it makes you feel, right? The last one is, what would it hurt if I throw it away? How many people here would willingly empty their entire email inbox? I know because I did it, like I do it every 6 months. I go and I wipe everything out, right? And I had an inbox with more than 5,000 emails in it. Think about it. When are you going to go back and look for anything in that inbox? When are you going to go back even this 2-3 pages backwards to look for something that you wanted to do 6 months, a year ago? You are never going to touch any of those emails in the next 6 months. In fact, that thing you're probably looking for is the hardest thing to find. And trust me, when you empty that entire inbox, if there's anything important that you lost, it will come back to you. I know it's happened to me several times in the last year, right? So yes, it sounds scary, but think about how much of a relief would it be if you just declutter. And this doesn't apply to just your email inbox and everything in your life. How many people have shoes they're holding on to, clothes that they think that they're going to fit into, things that are years old and it's just sitting there and you're not throwing it away? You have that box of trinkets in your house, old chargers, old batteries, old caps for bottles that you think you're going to use for something else. No, you're never going to use those things. You haven't used them in months to years. Why would you think you'd use them now? And trust me, when you need it, it will come to you. Throw it away, right? And see how light it makes you feel, right? So some additional stretch. Any questions so far about what we've spoken of thus far? So another strategy, some other strategies you can add into this, and these are things we're going to go through. We'll go through each one of these strategies over the next few sessions, next few months, right? And we'll go through them on a regular basis, right? One is learning how to schedule breaks, and I'll show you a technique that is on the next session I do next month, on how breaks are important and how to schedule them into your system. How to practice mindfulness, right? While we do things on nutrition and exercise and how it can affect your ability to manage menopause, we're going to talk about hydration and why good nourishment is good for energy, and how food can drain energy and increase energy, right? How to adjust your workloads, right? By making flexibility in your hours, in your work hours, and creating restful environments so you can be able to get the rest you need for your body to recover in order to be at your best all the time. These are all important aspects in managing menopause because it helps you with these transitions. And once you develop these systems, you realize it's things you take on throughout your life that creates more and more space for you and your friends, family, and everybody you want to spend time with, right? So to
Hi,
close out
Kiman.
this session, good evening.
Yeah,
Who am I
good
speaking
evening.
with?
This is Phoebe.
PB.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Some know me as Andra, right? So I came in a little late, so I'm not sure if I missed the point of, okay, now this menopause is it's really, I am now understanding about it, right? So it has me very tired, you know, depressed at times. I'm in the process of cleaning and it takes me real long to finish doing it. So I'm not sure if I miss that, how, when you're feeling that way, I just leave everything and lie down. So I am trying now to understand, how do I get over that? How do I manage time when it comes to, getting these tasks done and I am not feeling it?
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's a great question. And this is what we're talking about, is the fact that, yes, how do you get rest? How do you take the time for that? And this is what we're talking about. When you start doing these 6 techniques that I showed you, right? These 6 tips, you realize you're just feeling overwhelmed, you're just feeling super tired, I can't get anything done. You're able to take rest, to go and just relax, get yourself recovered, because you know that I can take these tasks that I had to do today and push them to tomorrow and they will still get done, right? Because you're doing it in this way, you're not overwhelming yourself. So in a case like this, instead of planning six tasks because you know you're not going to be in a great state, do 3, right? And then if you complete 1 or 2 tasks, you feel great. And now you're still getting stuff done. I could tell you, there's been days where I had just an off day. Even Maria then will talk about this. Last week, Nurse Maria, was it last week or the week before? I was having such an off day that all my energy was gone. I had nothing left to give. And they sensed it. They were having a meeting with me and they were like, wow, you're not showing up the way you usually do, right? And that's because I was getting a little burnt out. So I had to take some time off and say, okay, you know what? I'm not doing any more work this week. Let me focus. And I just did maybe 1 task a day. Sometimes I didn't get anything done that day. Did that decrease my productivity? No. Why? Because my productivity is based on um, getting things done over a month, over 3 months, over 6 months, over a year. I don't schedule my tasks for things that need to be done now for now. So I have 6 things I need to do for this year, right? I know in the first quarter, I then line up my tasks for how to achieve those 6 things, right? And I do 6 things in the first quarter or the second quarter that leads to that. And every quarter it gets another 6 things added. And then I then look at that and go, okay, how can I achieve these 6 things by doing smaller tasks for this month? So 6 things I need to get done to get to that quarterly task, to that quarterly outcome. And then 6 things I need to do every day that gets me there. So you see how I've broken it down and it gets smaller. And if a task is too big for me, I break it down into smaller tasks. And if that's too big, I break those down into smaller tasks. And I know these are the 6 things I want to get done. But let's say I only get 4 out of the 6 things done. Does that become a problem? No, because they will get done in time. By the end of the year, I will be pretty close, if not completed, all the 6 things that I was looking for. Right? So you see, this allows you to take rest. This allows you, when you're feeling that overwhelmed, you can get a moment for yourself. Right? And if you set this up and you start doing it on a regular basis, it becomes easier and easier and easier to implement. And you realize suddenly you have a whole bunch of time on your hands that you're able to spend getting recovered from the menopausal symptoms you're going through. Right? And that's why we're doing time management in this state, because these are important aspects for growth, right? For development and for the menopause change. Time is a great way to get yourself into a state of better health management, right? Now I know this because Maria has done this quite a lot over the last year and a half, and she's seen amazing changes in how she feels and how she is dealing with her time now, allowing us to start this White Rose community. Does that answer your question, PB?
It does. Thank you so kindly.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
I just want to make a comment.
Sure, Maria.
To add on to Andrea's question. Like, for example, I am doing some home renovations right now. And I set a task every month. So every month I would put aside some money to do at least one thing, right? So like, if, for example, like if I'm painting for the month, I put aside the money for the paint, then I put aside time to go buy the paint, and then in that same one task, and then I put aside the other time now to communicate with the painter so that he can help do that task for me. So that is how I break down my tasks in phases. So I try not to do too much of, even one task could be broken down into a number of smaller tasks. So that is how I get my stuff done, right? Because since I'm so busy in the week, I have to, in the evening time, sometimes I go buy certain things. So I get part of each task done, and by the end of the month, into the next month, the project is finished. So that is how I do. Sometimes I break up a small task into even smaller tasks.
And that is awesome. And the more you do this, you realize, Maria, is a more productive you're being. And it's allowing you more time to get other things done, because now you're not so bogged down. Oh, I have to get this painting. You're rushing to get it to the end of the month.
Yeah.
See, very, very big changes. And to tell you the truth, I agree with Maria on that one. I ended up in an extra half an hour every morning because of implementing this over the past 3 years. And that has led now, that investment is I have an extra half an hour investment, right? And think about it, it's like compounding interest. It just gets more and more and more. Suddenly, you're highly efficient. People want to know where you have the time in your hands, right? And you're like, I do amazing. I work an immense amount, and yet I have time for everybody. I have time for my family, right? So any other questions before we move into the last part of this discussion? All right, so on our next topic, we're going to dive into energy and how energy can affect us. I'll give you a little precursor of what energy is. We're going to break down energy into and how you can use, how to rebuild energy in your life and some of the techniques you can use to build energy. Time and energy are super important, right? So let's talk about what energy is. So a little preamble teaser to what the types of energy are. So there's physical energy, which everybody knows. That's physics. It's like heat and cold and all those things, right? Sleep, exercise, nutrition, those all maintain high energy levels. And we're going to talk about how those things can be, how nutrition and exercise can build your energy, but it can also drain your energy, right? And that's the physical energy. The next one is emotional energy. Emotional energy is that feeling you get home. When you get home in the evening, you feel so tired, you're emotionally drained. And we want to learn how to build positive emotional energy to constantly have a positive vibe to yourself that keeps that positivity out, right? And how to avoid negative energy on your emotions that can drain your energy levels, right? Our next one is mental energy. Mental energy is that brain fog, and I'm sure you encountered a lot when you go through menopause. You get a brain fog, you get that inability to concentrate on things for long, and how you can develop that mental energy that you can reduce brain fog, or when it does happen, it happens at times where you allow yourself some time to rest and then slowly recover from it so that you can carry on and be more productive. And the last one is the one that everybody has in them. They go to church to get it, is spiritual energy. And spiritual energy is deep within your soul. How do you build spiritual energy? How do you keep maintaining spiritual energy? And why it's important to have it. And spiritual energy can be anything from going to church, finding friends to talk to you, having good values and purpose. It can be everything from meditation. And meditation, going to church is a form of meditation. You can see how to build spiritual energy using exercise and different techniques like deep breathing to build that energy. And these are things I practice every morning to build all these energy levels to get myself into a state that I can be productive all day. These are important. So as you go through menopause, if you have these techniques being put in place, then you see a big change in how your energy levels are, and you start to recognize when you're going to start seeing a decline, and you learn, okay, you know what? Now is the time for me to take a break, take some rest, and allow my body a chance to recover from these symptoms it's going through right now so that I can be as productive as ever. Right? So those are some of the form of energies we'll talk about coming up in the future. We're going to talk about exercise, nutrition, and all those things and how they can help in these different aspects. So in closing off, we spoke today about time management. We talked about the 6 techniques of time management, which is, first one is touch it once. The next one is making a list. Next one is putting a timestamp to things on your list, then prioritizing that list. Making that list, sorry, let me just pull back up where I was, right. Planning your day. So planning your day, prioritizing where these things end up in your day. And the last one on that list is what will it hurt if I throw it away, right? So I want you to take this into consideration when working this week. Try to apply just one of these techniques this week and see how it makes you feel. And if you have any questions, always reach out to us and we can help you move through it. And that's it for tonight. I am Dr. Zainal Khan, Dr. Z, and we have with us Nurse Maria Nurse. We're the co-founders of the White Rose community, and we are here to help women navigate the symptoms of menopause with ease. Thank you so much. Maria?
Yes, good night, everyone, and thank you for coming. I hope this topic was helpful to help you and help us manage a lot of tasks that we have as women that we still have to complete during this transition, which can be difficult, very difficult at times. So I hope it was helpful to many of us.
So, all right, ladies, if there's no more questions, we'll open the floor to any questions if anybody has one at this point. Thank you, Denise. So if there's no more questions, I'll say good night to everybody. Next week, we're going to bring on a guest speaker. Well, hopefully we get a guest speaker to come on and we'll share what the topic is next week. But we are always focusing on menopause and how to transition through it with ease. Bring your questions, bring your comments. And if you have anything we want us to discuss that's really important to you, let us know and we will discuss it. Have a pleasant evening, everyone, and we'll see you next week. Oh,
Good
and
night.
before we go, before remember the weight loss, the 49-day weight loss challenge for menopause starts on Saturday. It's at 9:30 a.m. You will have access to the recordings. Again, I will share the link in the WhatsApp group. If you haven't joined the WhatsApp group, please join us. We will send it out to you and come join us. And it's 49 days to getting to the weight that you desire. All right, great, and see you soon. Night, everyone.